Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti, and right next to me, a scant 7,000 miles away, is Geoff Blanchard from Australia in Melbourne.
It's Australia.
It's Australia! And we're going to start the show recording now. Now, we had some delays today. We were having some audio issues. He has a Mackie Onyx, and it crapped out, just like my Mackie Onyx did a year ago. So, good job, Mackie. I know it's cheap, but still, come on.
Okay.
I've got my Shure X2U, which is even cheaper, and that hasn't crapped out yet. Anyway.
Yeah, well, the audio box that I'm using, the replacement, that was a very cheap
that's an old one, right? One of the first.
Yeah,
all right, so we are ready to go. So we're going to start the show recording in 3, 2, and 1. So we good? We are good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I'm joined today by my good friend, my co-host, our Australian buddy. There he is, in full regale.
Yes.
Hey, Geoff.
Hi.
How you
Tech Down
doing?
Over, and we were stopped by technical issues.
We were stopped by tech issues, yes. Mackie, you Mackie people. You always do this to us.
We solved it, though. That
That's
means
true.
Means
True.
something.
4,250 connections later, it was the Mackie.
That's right.
We've all been there and done that. And you know what's sad? Audio just goes sometimes. As much as you love audio and it's pretty stable, every so often it just goes. And in fact, I've got a new audio thing right here, which is my old time, my blue microphone, Bluebird. Anyway, just as I knock it over. Shall we do our intro? Let's do the intro. Are we doing the intro? Yes, we're doing the intro. That was the best thing. I couldn't resist.
No, I wouldn't say that either.
I couldn't resist because everybody's always going, are we doing an intro? Yeah, yes, we are. Okay.
And sometimes when you say goodbye, then you just
they
hang up
talking.
sometimes.
Yep. Anyway, well, today we were supposed to have the Western manager, regional manager for Sigma on today's Sigma lenses, but he was sick. I think he was really going away for the weekend and wanted to have an extra day, but I'm just kidding. He was sick. It happens. It happens to all of us. He will be on at a later date soon. So we're dying to hear what Sigma's got to talk about. Sigmas are great. They've really become just fabulous lenses. They keep doing better and better work on their stuff. Today, Geoff, I told you we are selling some of our cameras, and I just sold one of the D750s, but I just bought a new lens.
Oh, did you? With the D750?
No, this is for the... No, I bought this aside from that. This is the Canon 35mm f2.0 USM with IS, image stabilization on a prime. It's considered one of the best video lenses in the market. It's about $599. And this lens, they said, is very stable, very good in low light. It's an f2.0 lens, so it's got good low light. The USM motor's quiet and does a wonderful job with the dual focus systems and some of the older ones at giving you solid video. It takes very beautiful photographs too, but the video is really smooth on this one. And then
is that for the
for
80D?
Canons. Yep, this is the 80D, for example. I have the 7D Mark II, so I'll be using it on those two. I am so waiting for a Canon full frame that I can buy. Because I don't want a 60 because it is old. It's like 4 years old, no updates. I don't want to do that. I want a newer camera. I almost thought of getting a 5D Mark III, but it's inane. The 5D4 will be coming out soon, maybe before the end of the year, or the 6D Mark II has been rumored. And either one of those would make a very good full frame camera for the lenses. Most of our lenses are EF lenses, and I'm just going to wait because there's no other full frame unless I get a 1DX, but that's $5-6 grand, and it doesn't even have a headphone jack, I think. It's like, oh, come on. So I don't want to deal with it. Not at this point. And a lot of the stuff we do is more for video, but I do want a nice one. And then here, I think you can see this pretty well. This is my Canon 80D, 80D.
Oh, yes.
And look, what do I have on that? What kind of lens?
I can't say a little prime lens, is it?
It's a prime. It's very small, isn't it?
50 millimeter?
No, smaller.
30.
A little bigger.
Oh.
Getting hot. Getting hot.
What was it, 40?
40! Ah, yes, 40. You can name that lens in 5 notes. 40 millimeter. It's the pancake. It's the only pancake lens Canon makes. It's a 40 millimeter STM lens. $200, maybe $250. I think when I got it, it was a little bit more, but it's gone down. That's how thin. Look how thin that is. And this lens it's not stabilized, but it takes beautiful pictures and very, very good video. Simple little lens, does a great job. 35 millimeters, a little wider, and should have a very nice. And this is a 2.0 lens, and the 40 millimeter is 2.8. Still bright, but not as bright. Really nice lenses. You can take some great video with these lenses. And keep in mind, on a crop sensor, it's 1.5 times that. So the 35 millimeter is about 52, 55, something like that, maybe 57, which is pretty much a good portrait lens on a crop sensor. And the 40 millimeter is really about a 65 millimeter, getting close to that 70 millimeter. Again, very good portrait lenses. So these are great lenses on a crop camera, like the APS-C cameras, to do good video and good photos, good portrait lenses. You could do landscapes to a certain point, and you can put them on a full frame camera, and now you've got true 35 millimeter and true 40 millimeter. So these are very nice lenses. I was watching one podcast the other day, and I agree with the guy. He said he's got his 35 millimeter and his I think it was 50 millimeter, something like that. And he said that's one of the killer combinations. Or he has two of the primes that he uses everywhere. He's got the 35 millimeter prime and the 85 millimeter prime. And with that, on a full frame camera, you've covered just about everything. Short of real big landscapes, you've covered all kind of portraiture, general camera usage. They're beautiful lenses. So that's what we got there. So as far as Canon, I'm waiting for some Canon to come out. I'm not ready to buy one until another full frame comes out.
And that's where I think we've both got to that stage where we're saying we're not buying anything else. We're just going to wait and then wait for the latest Canon one to come out, and even then still wait 6 months to see if it's any good than what people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be a little more on the edge, but I don't want to buy. I don't want to just buy to buy. I've done that already. Now we're selling 4 cameras because I bought to buy, and we didn't have a need for all those cameras, and I didn't buy things we could have used, like other camcorders for the studio, things like that. So looking back on it, you're rushing purchases because of tax purposes, and then you realize I rushed it. I should have thought really well before I did this. But that was gear acquisition syndrome.
And after talking with Mark last week from Tiffen, there's a ton of stuff we can buy and keep that will keep in to date no matter what we buy.
That's true.
So there's lots of nice, expensive toys that we can get to put on the latest thing that we do get.
Yeah, and Tiffen's great. I bought that right after I got off the show last week. Apple, I guess, did something illegal, and they lost the lawsuit, and they did a class action lawsuit, and I got $103 in my Amazon account for the class action. I didn't even know I was in the class action lawsuit. But I guess everybody who ever bought certain books on Kindle, Apple colluded to fix pricing, and they got in trouble.
Oh, so you got
I got $103 back. I was surprised. Usually you get like 12 cents, and it's like, wow, $103. So I bought the Tiffen lens for about $120, which was the polarizer, the variable variable neutral density filter for my XC10, and it is beautiful. The XC10 footage outdoors now looks gorgeous, whereas before it was just a little too burned out. It just wasn't doing well. Even though they have their own built-in ND filter, it doesn't do much. This one I can keep it almost wide open, put the Tiffen filter on. It looks, it's night and day. I couldn't even believe how well it looked. So very well worth it.
as I said, I didn't realize there was that much things out there for those neutral density filters for just the DSLRs. I knew they were there, but I never got into them that
and
much.
I've had some
but
before, but I didn't have
certainly
that.
do a good product.
Oh, it's great, and I've had some before, but I didn't have it for the 58 millimeter standard, diameter for the XC10. It was perfect. It just, I noticed right away. I went outside in front of our office where it's really harsh bright usually, and the scene looked gorgeous. There was no harshness. It looked nice, natural. The blues looked good. Everything looked good. The colors on the cars, everything looked really good, just by making a couple of small changes.
And that's what I like with that's one of the things with that Panasonic HCX 1000. It's got the neutral density filters built into that, and they actually really work well.
Yeah.
Because that was my first experience using them with a built-in one with a camera.
Right.
And they really do a good job.
And I'm selling that one too.
Yes.
I'm going to stick more with Canon. I do like some of the. I like the Panasonic more professional line on there, but they're a lot more money. You're talking about $4,000 or $5,000 again, and the Canons I can get the ones I like for about $2,600, and they're nice. I want to get one more of the. Now I want to get the new ones, the XA 35 or 30. I'll probably get a 35 because it does SDI and HDMI output, and it's a beautiful camera. We have the XA20. You're looking right now at an XA25. I'm on an XA25. You're on an XA10.
That's right. Yes.
And look, these are great cameras. They can work as webcams. They can work as professional broadcast cameras. I have the XA10s at home on the home studio, and they're just awesome. They're great cameras. We took them with us to Fort Lauderdale at that Lectora show we went to. They were great. They actually looked fantastic. And this is a 4 or 5 year old camera. They still look great.
And the operations on the manual operations are still easy enough to do. It's got full manual operations, where something like the smaller ones, yes, they do, but it would take you 6 years to figure out which button to press to change the
yeah. Well, I have
that
Panasonic 991K, the WX. I think what is it? WX991K, and it's very small. I don't have it here right now. It's a beautiful little Panasonic camcorder. If I have one complaint, you don't have a lot of controls around it, and the controls are on the screen, and when you're outdoors, they are invisible. You could see them through your electronic viewfinder, and that's not bad, but they're a little small, and they're not built to be changed often. That's my only concern about that. But other than that, it's a great little camera to take with you and take a lot of shots. You have one of the older versions of that. And they're very comfortable.
And I tell you that older version of that Panasonic, I don't know what they've done later on than that, but this one is it's probably about 6 years old now at least. But that one, no matter what the conditions outside, how bright it is, no matter how much glare there is outside, I can still see that little LCD screen.
And that was
not any other camera I've ever had. You can. This one, it's perfect, and I thought don't want to get rid of it because I just can't understand. That one cost me about $600 at the time, and then I bought the Canon here, which was about $2,000 at the time. But I can't see the Canon screen, and you would think you're paying that much. And it says it's got a super bright LCD screen, so it's not a patch on that the older Panasonic. So I don't know what your other Panasonic's like, but
it's actually pretty bright. I think it's an OLED. But if the sun hits it from behind, you're kind of hosed. You can see it a little, but not much. And if you want to try to change options on it, no, it's too hard. At that point, you can't see the lettering. It's so they're small. The icons are small, and the lettering's thin. And when the sun hits it, you're pretty much dead. You can see it in the EVF though, which is comfortable. It's not a bad EVF. Now your camera, I believe, had 3 CCDs in it.
I'm not too sure whether it's got the viewfinder thing, but it's that small you can't use it. But I've never had to look through
but
that
I think
because
you had
the
the 3
LCD
chips.
screen was working.
But I think you had the 3 color chips on it, whereas the new ones only have 1.
I think this one was still the one because I know all those ones had 3 CCD plastered all on the side.
Okay.
This one doesn't have that. So
well, maybe by then they had changed over to the 1 model, because now they're not doing the 3 CCDs anymore because the chips are better and the pixels are bigger, so they capture colors pretty well regardless.
And I find they just do a fantastic job, those ones. But I'm really impressed. I still love this Canon. I just think it does such a great quality. And as I said, the Panasonic's not too bad, but I think it gives a better one in the 4K.
Mm-hmm.
But it just takes more, a bit like you said, for the C100, takes a little bit more to set it up correctly,
Right,
I think.
right.
But you can put it on the auto, and it does a fantastic job.
They do. Actually, it's funny.
The
Most
whole
of these
point is
cameras,
we want to have manual control.
and if it's funny, most of these cameras do auto pretty damn well.
They do, yeah, but it's like that.
But Geoff, we don't like auto, do we? We want to flip it all ourselves, and then we mess it all up. But that's okay. Actually, manual's fun. You can be much more creative with manual and do some really cool shots. But you're right. If you're in a rush, in a hurry, just flip it to auto, and the camera will go, "Step aside, human. I'm in charge now," and it'll just take beautiful shots.
But the thing is, as well, as some people are a bit worried about using the auto because people think they're no good. But what I quite often do is I do the manual and experiment, but I always switch it back to auto and take a few shots just to cover myself.
Right. That makes sense.
So if you've done a terrible job, you think you've done a good job, but I always click a few on auto. Just make sure it's, and some cameras as well, if you click it back on auto, it resets the mess you made in the manual.
That's true.
So it sets everything back to standard, so you're not doing a bad shot on every other shot you're doing in the future.
Well, also that's very good advice, because play with auto, because auto gives you recommended settings, and then use those settings in manual and tweak them. So they give you a good starting point, especially if you're new in photography and you're not quite sure how to use manual, the big M, the scary M. And it's really not that hard. There's 3 things you need to keep in mind: aperture, time or shutter speed, and your ISO sensitivity. That's it. If you've got that down, that's all you have to really worry about. The rest is auto. And I mean, you could do special things. You could put in aperture mode, you can put in time mode, and there's places for that to happen. But you don't need to really know that much. It's not that hard, I should say, to figure it out. I think there's more fear involved in going to manual than actual real. I remember when I first started, it was like, manual? I'm a little afraid of manual.
But it really makes you, well, when you do something like this and having like your XA10 camera doing the podcast and there and proper lighting, that really gets you into the manual thinking, because if you have it on automatic with all the lights, it makes it dull because it says it's too bright. So you've got to manually set it and put the lights so you can get the exact right lighting, because automatic will just mess everything up, make it too bright or too dark. You just got to have it on the manual.
Yeah, and another secret, for example, on our cameras here, all we really do is we change the exposure or exposure compensation, depending on how bright the lights are, if we change something. And the other thing we do is we will change the white balance, because anytime you change a light source, you can go on auto white balance, but it's not the same as putting in your own white balance, because then it sets it to exactly what the camera is supposed to see in white. And so yesterday, for example, we reset the whole studio, and we had kind of a yellowish green tinge on us. And once we reset it, once we did a white balance, perfect. It just automatically got it. And so, there's not enough reminding people of white balance. It's something important to do, especially if you're on a video shoot or a photo shoot and you don't have a lot of time. Now, auto white balance, a lot of times will solve your problems, especially if you've got multiple light sources and it's confusing. The camera tries to do a pretty good job of getting it right. Now, if it doesn't, then you have to go to your manual white balance or custom white balance, and then it's pretty easy to get exactly where you want to go. Now, sometimes you may want to play with other white balance settings just to see what kind of light you get out of it.
Get a look.
You get really cool effects sometimes, which is something you may not have bargained for, but it looks nice. So, half the pictures we ever take are accidents.
And like there was just saying with the auto as well on the focusing and that, the same thing with the white balance. The auto white balance seems to work fine outside in normal natural light, but once you start putting artificial lights into the scene, you really do have to do the manual. And I quite often set it on there, but I've got different settings and manually tweak the white balance until it just looks right, because sometimes you can do an auto calibration and it says it's right, but it's only right as the way you want to see it, really. You've got to, don't always trust what the camera says, because it's that might be right, but you might not be looking for that. Like sometimes they make it a bit cold looking. I want a bit more warmth in the shot. So you just tweak it yourself.
Yep, and especially with flatter profiles on cameras, especially video cameras, you sometimes want to sharpen a little bit more, or you want to add a tad more contrast. You could do it post, or you could even do it pre.
Now, Rick, answer a question for me. I just don't know. Maybe I'm a bit ignorant on that, but why have you got iris on video cameras and aperture on normal DSLRs? What's the difference?
Nothing. It's how much you're opening and closing the lens still.
I know, but it just said, was there a reason why it's called iris on a video camera and aperture on a DSLR?
No, it's still an iris on your lens. It's just that for some odd reason on video they call it iris, and for some odd reason on the camera they call it aperture, how much you're opening and closing. But both are opening and closing the lens. And then you've got gain or ISO. They're the same thing, except on video cameras they tend to call it gain, how much gain or sensitivity you're adding.
Isn't it? Noise.
Yes. Whereas on a camera they call it ISO, or how much sensitivity you're adding, but it's the same thing. In fact, the XC10 from Canon is funny because it says, you want to call it ISO or gain?
That's it.
I'll call it gain. All right.
I just don't want to know what's minus 27 dB.
Yeah, that's a tough one because then you have to go back to ISO and figure out what that was. It's a little different because minus 27 doesn't mean the same as maybe 600 or 800 ISO.
You don't know what it is.
So you don't know what it is. It just, but one's gain and one is ISO. Video guys are more used to gain. Photo guys are used to ISO or ISO. So it just really depends what I think where you're coming from and what you're comfortable with. It is sort of funny though when you think about it. It's like they're the same thing in essence. Iris. Why are we calling it iris when really it's an aperture? You're moving the aperture ring or you're opening the iris ring. Same thing. I guess you just want to differentiate yourself from a photographer or a video guy. I'm different.
And that's a good thing with that HCX 1000. It does have the separate iris ring on it as well as the focus ring, so you can have, and the zoom.
I believe on the XA30 they have that too now. I think they have some extra rings. They said you have almost full manual control. So, I want to see what they've done with that.
But Rick, I see you've got a new microphone. You was talking about your new microphone. Let's have a.
This is the Blue microphone, Bluebird.
Oh.
It looks like their bottle microphone, just a lot smaller and a whole lot cheaper. The bottle microphone's about $4,000 or $5,000. This was $300. That's a big difference. It's a good microphone. It seems okay. I didn't realize that this is not a side axis microphone. Watch what happens when I start talking to the side. Did you tell?
Not very good.
Yeah. And watch what happens when I start going back.
Yeah, you can't hear anything.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything when
Can you hear me back here? I'm talking back here. Do you hear me?
Very little.
So this has a very tight pattern. I mean, it's really tight. Either that or I'm talking to the back end, but I think I'm not.
It's still a condenser, isn't it?
It's a condenser, yeah.
Yeah, it's a phantom power. Oh.
So, but you have to be on the close side. I'd say 4 inches is probably the sweet spot on this one.
Well, that's something what you want. That's usually the problem with most of the condensers. They pick too much up on that.
And if you could see, I'm going to turn a little bit so you can see it has its own pop filter built in.
Oh, yes.
So that pop filter you just screw on and right on the neck of it, and it seems to work. Pop, 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 pop. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
And it's got an unusual design, but really, most of the microphones look like that. They just put little cases over the top of them.
Yeah, that's all it is. If you actually look at what the condenser, it's not that big. It's a 1-inch little condenser. That's it. But it doesn't look sexy or it doesn't look different. So it's not very heavy. I'd say it's maybe a pound. It's nice. I almost got the baby bottle, but like I said, I saw reviews on Amazon of people giving demos, and this one sounded better than the baby bottle. It had a little bit more natural resonance. But I was surprised at how immediately as I moved back, I noticed my voice goes very
away
light.
so quickly, just that inch or two. It's devastating.
That's one tight pattern. Not to mention if I do this, as I'm talking, I look over here, now that you can't hear me again.
Yeah.
So this has an incredibly tight pattern, which is good if you're doing singing, voiceover.
Really good.
It does come, not very forgiving though.
No.
So
because you You've
and
got
you
to
have
make
to
sure
direct,
you stay
and it's
on
direct
center.
access, on axis. You have to be on axis
Axis.
with this one. At first, I was doing this all the time, and it wasn't sounding good because you can't. You have to be right here. I spent 2 hours trying to figure out what was wrong with my Personas and my Scarlett, and it was me, the mic.
It was. What I've also seen this week, I don't know, that I saw these new set of earphones, like earbuds, and they were sort of like the inner earbuds, but they're not cheap, but about $2.99 Bluetooth earbuds.
I think I've seen them. What are they called?
I'll just see if I can show you
I vaguely
here.
can
you see them there?
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
These ones there, but has it got a little there they are.
Who makes them?
I'm not too sure. It's just a new one on there. Where is it? Doppler Labs.
Doppler. Okay. Oh, I'm hearing echo now when you went to that shot.
Oh, let's get back. Okay. Oh, yes, because it's probably doing the sound off of the thing. Okay, we'll get back from that. But what the good thing that I like with those ones, as opposed to the other ones, what their big thing is it blocks off a lot of the noise around you, but not everything. It lets things through, like, so you can have them, so you can hear cars going past, you can hear things happening in the background, but not everything.
Yep.
And I thought that's really good. But I might, except for $2.99, very expensive, but it'd be good to have a decent set of earphones if you could, but they're a Bluetooth.
Yep. I wonder how well they sound. I wonder how the quality is.
That's
at $2.99. They're probably pretty darn good.
That's what they seem to be. I would think for that amount of money, they should be good. But it'd be interesting to see what they are like anyway. Because save having to have like the cable on these, doing that in there. I don't know about you, but every time I put these down earphones in, it's still a struggle. I just still stick them in my ear, and they don't feel it's in the right way until you get them in. You know, you can't get them in the wrong. Well, you can. Some people can get them in the wrong way.
I've had these now.
If you've done it all right, they just sit in nicely.
I've had these for 2.5 years, and I still keep getting them backwards all the time because to me they look the same. You just have to. Anyway, well, Geoff, we are at the end of our time today. Now, tomorrow we're going to do either a blab or a Wirecast to do another show this week, and that should be fun. I'll be doing that one from home, and I'm going to install Wirecast 7, which just came out. I don't know if you saw my note.
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about as well, because I was having a look at that. So.
It looks nice what they've done. Let's see. Stephen Haywood did a whole write-up on it. He did a blog, a video blog, I think on Thursday, and it was good. It's a nice one. He did a good overall view of the new features, and it's funny because they're putting a lot of stuff vMix had in there. So everybody's chasing everybody, which is good. It's great competition, makes us all feel better.
And one of that big things that I think this is one that you're interested in, the new monitor Mix Minus.
Yeah, I saw that. Now we got to figure out how that works because that looked really interesting.
That's where we always have the trouble, isn't it? And it seems
now it's the cone of silence.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it's quite interesting whether it's worth me upgrading for that, because it's about $179, isn't it? So
no, it's $299 for regular, and what was it, like $140? I thought maybe I'm wrong.
$179 for the regular.
Oh, you're in Australia. It's more for you. That's more for you. It was less here. It was $99 for regular, and it was $299 for Pro. We have the Pro version, and the Pro added NDI, so you have the network device interface just like vMix on the Pro. So I'm going to do some testing tomorrow. I'll probably call you with Wirecast tomorrow, and I'll have one of the small ITX machines at home running just to see if it works. And
the thing is with that, I've noticed you used to be able to pay a $99 extra one to get the titler.
It's free now.
The bundling that with the 7, so if
it
you
looks
get that,
nice. It looks like a lot of fun.
So that at least justifies it. You're getting that. That's $99 worth for. So half justifies it. But don't be like the last. I remember the last upgrade you did on Wirecast. It destroyed everything. Didn't it?
It ruined every one of our shows. They changed the model for whatever reason.
At least you're not using it for shows now.
And honestly, I saw no real reason for what they did. It didn't improve anything.
No, not really, did it?
It didn't improve anything. It was just stupid. But anyway, I like the product. I just thought that was dumb. That was Wirecast 5 that did that.
And by the looks of it, Wirecast 6, when you was editing a shot, did seem so old-fashioned. Now it looks like they've just come up to modernised it a bit and just
And now you have
Didn't look-
you have a full hotkey editor.
Oh, do
So
you?
I'm hoping they
Okay.
fix it so you can use anything now.
Oh, we'll talk about that tomorrow, and you can show me. So
I'll show you if I can get that working. I'll show you, but I'll be playing around with it tomorrow. Well, anyway, Geoff, you have a great weekend. You know it's our 4th of July weekend, so we'll be off one day on Monday,
Yes.
and which will be your Tuesday. So you'll be already back to work when we're off.
Yes, my mother's 89th birthday on the 4th of July, so I'll never forget the 4th.
Your mom's cool. That's great. You doing okay?
Yes, still going. It's just her legs that's given up, but nothing wrong other than that.
Yeah,
so.
that's great. Cool. Well, hey, I know she doesn't know me, but wish her the best from me.
I shall do. She does. I always.
She does? Well, give her a
talk to you
virtual hug
about
from
it,
the
so
US.
says Rick, so
Give her a virtual hug from the USA.
I shall do, definitely.
And tell her she raised a good boy, a good lad there. She raised a very good lad.
I think she knows that anyway.
Okay. Hey, Geoff, I will see you then tomorrow at 9 o'clock my time, and I think, 3 o'clock yours?
2 p.m. my time, yeah.
Sounds great. All right, well, have a good one. Enjoy today.
Okay.
Take care,
Bye
Geoff.
for
Thanks.
now.
Bye-bye.
Have we finished yet?
I don't think so.
I couldn't resist that after you did the beginning.